Well, that First Amendment, it's pesky, but it's necessary. How are you going to stop it?
Technology is everywhere. It is something we have embedded into our personal and social lives that has become essential in participating in today's society. Although the technological advances have proven to not only advance our society, but also to advance our minds, there is still a negative downside to it all.
Well, having taught media analysis and criticism for 25 years, and having been a girl growing up, my perspective, I suppose, is pretty clearly about the domination of men over women in advertising typically, and also telling women what's wrong with them, how they can fix it, and things like eating disorders lead directly from this. So does conspicuous consumption, debt, all these things. So yeah, bad. Reinforces patriarchy.
But for me personally, I think that I can say the same thing. I've seen plenty of advertisements that have had negative aspects or negative effects on me, specifically because of stereotypes and negative things that are being advertised for. But also they've had very positive influences on me personally, because there have been positive advertisements that I've seen that have helped bring out like a different view about different things. So I think it's very positive and negative.
Women are in commercials have more pressure to like follow those ideals than men do, but like at the same time, like everyone has that idea of like the perfect figure, and everyone ultimately would rather be in better shape than they are. And so I think like my idea of better shape, or someone that's the ideal man, looks like someone that I would want to be too. Just because I'm a man doesn't mean that I don't have those same feelings.
I just remember like when I was younger, like watching like beer commercials or something, like a girl would kind of be portrayed in like a sexy kind of way, or they wouldn't be paying that much attention to like the beer itself, but more like the female that they were talking to or something.
Gender stereotypes have been a part of our societies since the beginning of time. They have developed into our perceived perspectives of how one gender should act versus the other. We currently live in a society today where we are making more progress in breaking these stereotypes and creating a gender-neutral environment. Since advertisements are one of the leading influencers, especially in adolescence, we are going to look at specifically at how these companies portray gender stereotypes and the negative effect it can have on the youth.
I would say the age that it began to influence my own lifestyle would be like maybe 7th or 8th grade, early on high school years, because that's when you were paying attention to advertisements more and you were more affected by them because you knew more about, what they were saying, and you could gather more information from them. So I would say, I think that would probably be like 13 or 14. I think that's probably when it started to have a bigger impact than it did when we were younger. I definitely think that it is important for a number of different reasons of why it's important to protect what the youth sees, because that's the up and coming generation, and I think if they're flooded with specific stereotypes, and that's all that's going to be in their head, so all these changes that are happening now, that's not going to continue to happen if the youth specifically sees these stereotypes and just automatically assumes that this is the way that they're supposed to be and act and look. And I think them being the next generation, they should see things that are completely not stereotypical by any means, and should influence them in a positive manner.
Lots of studies have shown us that advertising begins to affect people's lifestyle as toddlers. We know that people become consumers when they're watching cartoons, the sweet cereals, the commercials, the low shelves in the checkout, or the low shelves in the grocery store, the pink aisle at the erstwhile Toys R Us. These are all is all very much geared. But beyond that, even earlier than that, parents already have a disposition to use their own bias logic based on their experiences. But also parents are marketed to.
I mean, we're definitely heading in the right direction. There's a lot of work to do, but from the standpoint of equality and rights and awareness and sensitivity and all those kind of things, they're all going in the direction towards equality on all fronts. I don't think that we could do that in today's world, but in the future, potentially.
I think censoring is a good start, and maybe someday it'll be more neutral, like maybe in the near future, but I think there's always going to be some advertisements that are specifically to females, specifically to males.
I definitely think that we will have a society that is gender neutral at some point, because it's already evolving very much in the current day and over the past year or two. But I definitely think advertisements plays a part in that as well. I think it's a bigger picture than just advertisements, but I think it takes baby steps to be able to evolve like that. So I definitely think filtering advertisements would help in that cause.
Social media is not easily regulated. It would be great if it were, but I don't think we have reached the point where we have the possibility of a cultural shift that would support that.
The Committees of Advertising Practice, CAP, announced that a new rule will be introduced in the UK advertising codes next year to ban harmful gender stereotyping in advertising. They provided an evidence-based case for stronger regulations of ads that feature stereotypical gender roles or characteristics which can be harmful to people, including ads which mock people for not conforming to gender stereotypes. This is just one of the big steps in creating a gender-neutral society.
I definitely think it would be possible in the United States to, not necessarily, I don't think, ban gender stereotyping, but like we said earlier, I think policies being put in place to help filter out those stereotypes is a good way to start. I don't necessarily think that there's going to be a complete ban on stereotypes in advertisements, but I think, putting those policies in place to filter them out is a good place to start.
There's no such thing as objectivity. Perspective will never leave us. We can hope that our society will become less heteronormative, but we can't count on censorship largely writ. Again, the First Amendment protects you, it protects me. We have to look at things in terms of literacy.
Because technology has become a huge part of how we live our lives, advertisements will continue to find ways to promote their brands. New policies would not be preventing companies from creative advertisements, but instead would prevent gender stereotyping. Adolescents' brains are constantly developing, so the things that influence our younger generations should be analyzed. The researcher for gender stereotyping is changing every day since it is a current issue we see in advertisements everywhere. We are heading in the right direction, but it is essential for us to create these policies in regards to the health of our current generations and the ones that follow.